And we're live with the HESN Football Podcast. I'm Jesse Card, your host, here with my main man, Kyle Ball. How you doing, buddy?
Good, thanks. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm good, and we've got a special episode because we've got our first in-house guest, the very beautiful, very talented Jenny Tierney.
Oh, welcome
to the show. So we're going to be talking about football. This is after all, the HESN Football Podcast. Just to give you a bit of an idea about what we try to do on this show is just have a casual conversation about youth sports and youth football, because there's a lot of attention obviously on the Red Blacks, and if we're talking hockey, there's a lot of attention on the Ottawa Senators, but really the kids don't get the recognition that they deserve. You know, we love to focus on youth sports and make the kids feel appreciated and celebrating their accomplishments. So that's what this show is all about. Kyle, what are we talking about today?
All right, so going off Jesse's point, we like to make kids feel like they're part of something special. Like we put together the video highlights like we got on the screen playing there. And we also do weekly power rankings. So let's get right into it. The first division we're doing is the Tyke 6-on-6 aside.
So just to give you an idea, Tyke is 7, 8, and 9-year-olds.
Okay.
Yep. So
they're the little guys, and we've got two divisions. We've got a 10-on-10 league and a 6-on-6. Where football maybe isn't as popular in parts of the city. They couldn't get as many kids as the 10-on-10 areas. Okay. So instead of saying, okay, we can't have a team, let's put together a 6-on-6 league. And at that age, who really cares, right?
About learning the rules.
Yeah.
They're just there having some fun.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, it's only little kids, but they get heated on the power rankings.
Yep.
So where are we at with the power rankings, Kyle?
All right, so this week we had the West Carleton Wolverines. They stayed undefeated and took over the number 1 spot with a 57-31 win over the Myers Riders. The Bell Warriors beat South Ottawa Mustangs 43-30, and the East Ottawa Generals got back to their winning ways with a 55-36 shootout win over Bel Air, who was number 1 last week.
Holy geez. So the one thing I did notice about this division that I want to mention was the parity.
Yep.
Like there are not really uneven scores. So there's a lot of good football happening there. And, that's the future of our football fans for Red Blacks, and the future of our players that potentially could go on to play in the older divisions and one day maybe get a scholarship and go play at university level.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a great point about the parity in the league. One thing I've noticed is looking at all the scores, every week they seem to be getting higher and higher. Teams are scoring more points, but they're still pretty close games. I mean, they're not complete blowouts.
No, not at all.
And the kids must be having a great time there.
Right. So, Jenny, how many kids? What is the ages of your family and your kids?
Oh, the oldest 22, 19, and 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it seems like a long time ago that you had 6 and 7-year-olds running around the house.
Yes.
Is that a relief, or like what is it like now being a
quiet.
mom?
It's very quiet and the house is clean.
You have a 17 and a 19-year-old and the house is clean?
Well, 2 of them don't live at home.
Okay. Well, that helps.
That makes it a bit easier.
Sure. Yes, definitely.
Well, I mean, my fiance and I have been talking about kids, so it's on the radar now. So I'm looking forward. I'm not saying that my kid, I'm going to force him to play football just because I'm a fan, but if he happens to show the enthusiasm for football that I do, and I park him beside me to watch some of the Red Blacks games, if he does play, I can't wait to start coaching my kids' team and
being involved.
In their lives, right?
Sure.
Steve, the producer, maybe talk about your experience coaching your kid. Is it harder having a player on the team that you coach? I mean, having your son on a team that you coach?
Yeah, I think that like a lot of other coaches, you hold your own kid up to a higher level of expectation. Not so much in the level of his play. It is what it is. But in the way he responds, the way he's coachable, the way he does what we ask on the field of play. Excuse me, it's tough sometimes as the coach and the dad and the taxi guy and the gear guy and the email guy.
The manager.
I think I'm speaking to a lot of people who know exactly what that's like.
So what would you say to the overworked and underappreciated volunteers out there? What makes it all worth it?
Keep going. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
We all have to do our utmost, but because this is an open and fair forum, it always seems to be the same core group of parents that lead the charge on a lot of the teams.
Right.
And so as coaches, when we go up and we do our preseason meetings and all, we're always looking at those same people going, you're still with me, right? And you need that support, and it's so tough.
Yeah, for sure.
As we say.
Right.
Yeah, and we can't give enough thanks to those volunteers. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be where we are today and having our kids.
Say thanks.
Sorry?
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Did I say other stuff? Thanks where all that other junk was.
Yeah, it was in there somewhere.
And you can always use more volunteers. So they're, like you said, 20% of the parents are the ones doing 80% of the lifting. If you're a parent and you're kind of on the sideline, you're driving your kids to practice anyways, get involved, Don't be shy. Go ask the head coach, is there anything I can do?
Yep.
It also kind of brings you tighter to the team and you feel more part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was playing, my dad was shy to get started at first, but then he started helping out. All he was doing was holding the sticks, but still he was helping out.
I love the stick guys. Yep. I tell you, I've met so many great dads that hold the sticks, and they've got the best view in the house. If you're going to watch the game, you might as well be right on the sideline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to show my naivety. Hold the sticks. I have a feeling that's the first down sticks.
Yes.
You can guess I'm not a football guy. I ignore hockey, baseball, but move the sticks. I didn't know if this is the porn podcast.
Yeah, no, the sticks are the guys that the refs direct, and they've got an integral part to.
I'm learning right now.
Right,
I had no idea. Yep.
So
very good.
How many yards to a first down? You've got to know this.
I don't know anything about football.
Have you been to many Red Blacks games?
I have been to 0 Red Blacks games.
What?
It's terrible. I worked them.
Okay.
But I have never attended a Red Blacks football game.
Okay.
I know it's a trick question because when I went out to the first midget football game, I heard 4-down football from Dan Mooney, our illustrious host, and I went, 4 downs. What?
Yeah, the midget division switched like a long time ago to 4. They were looking for, the midget was traditionally 17, 18, 19 year olds.
Okay, so same for hockey. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and as you know, with your son playing hockey, that age is tough sometimes to get kids out to play,
for sure.
right? Like they've got a lot going on. It's the jobs start to happen, girlfriends start to happen. Parties are going on. So, to stick with a sport at that age, sometimes they struggle with numbers. But they've dropped the ages down in NCAFA to 16, 17, 18. But I mean, 4 downs was a result of them trying to attract more kids, bring something different to the game. So we have the Canadian-sized field, but 4 downs. And typically, you get a little bit more offensive and defensive plays that way. I'm not a fan of the rule, and it's been talked about for years. Like, should we switch it to 3 downs, seeing as how that's our game?
Right.
I like the Canadian 3-down game better. I think there's more passing. There's, I think it's helping bring the kids up to the university level a little bit quicker.
Okay.
But it's not shared, and it looks like Kyle doesn't agree.
I'm a big fan of the 4-down model.
Okay.
I mean, if you're playing 3 downs and you get 2 plays in, and that could be the end of your drive right there. You have to punt it away. I mean,
if you're not a good team,
right, or even for like the Bel Air Norsemen, they go 2 and out sometimes, or 3 and out sometimes.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of the equation, you can get teams that are unimaginative and just run dive, first down, dive, which makes kind of a boring football game in my opinion. So, you know what? We'd love to hear from other people. What do you think? Should the midget league eventually switch to 3 downs to make it more close?
Dive. I'm sorry. We're in the submarines now.
Very
craft talk all of a sudden.
Yeah, a dive, a straight run play between the guard and tackle, or
Right, and which is why we love the CFL.
Yeah, you've got the motion. You're forced to pass a lot more. It develops a different skill set, I think. In the junior varsity OPFL, the Ontario Provincial League, where I coached this summer, typically that provincial league was 4 downs, and they've now switched back to 3 downs, and I loved it because as a coach and a defensive secondary coach, I grew up and I played university, so I mean all the things that I can impart on them is 3 down coaching. Yep. So I'm more useful as a 3-down defensive back coach than a 4-down.
For baseball, I'm proposing 4 strikes in the out.
Oh, yeah?
Because that would be better for my hitters.
Good luck with that rule change.
Well, then we got to change take me out to the ball game. And
that's true. Because I have one more beat.
So let's move on with the power rankings.
Yep. So now on to the 10v10 type division.
Right.
What a battle we had. Cumberland Panthers and Canada Knights, number 1 and 2 last week. Panthers won 50-48. Highest scoring game of the league this year. And
Downside to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was at that game. Looking back, I mean, that would have
Right.
been a fun game to be at.
So they're ranked, you said?
They were 1 and 2 coming into this week. Canada was number 1. Cumberland was number 2. Canada's now up to number 1. Canada dropped to number 3.
Okay.
Wow, so East versus West.
Yep.
There you go. So that's an exciting matchup.
Yep.
These teams that are ranking 1, 2, and 3, 4, we're probably going to see these teams in the playoffs competing for the ACAP championships.
Yeah, and a couple other teams to watch this week. The Wildcats beat the Eagles 24-18. They're up to number 2. And the Raiders soar by the Vikings 47-18 for number 4.
Wow.
How about that, Jenny?
That's That's amazing.
And
I'm learning.
You were learning.
Now know
That's
more than I
it.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna come out of the show knowing a little bit more about
Yes,
football, and,
exactly.
and we're happy about that.
And now one thing to watch for is tonight we have a game at Jill O'Julian Park, the Giants against the Knights. What do you,
Okay.
as a potential parent, and producer Steve, you can chime in on this one. What do you think of Wednesday night football? Getting out there in the middle of the work week.
For the HESN Live,
No, for a game.
Just having to go out to a game and it being scheduled in the middle of a week rather than traditional weekend slots.
well, I guess football's different. I enjoy the league games on the weeknights.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a routine for me. We know we get home at a certain time. We're going to eat, get them ready.
Right.
My son now is 16, so I guess it's the midget age we're talking
Yep.
about in baseball. And so typically that's a senior league. Junior and seniors start pitching from 60 feet 6 inches, 90-foot bases. But the thing is, when they get to senior, now you play the late game. So it's always at 8:30 at night start because we play
Right.
after the juniors.
Right.
Yep.
So it's probably really sport to sport is different. I would figure football, it's a big weekend sport, right? It's a big
Yeah.
event once a week.
Yeah,
well, and people complain about the Wednesdays, but I think it's just a result of unequal teams and having to
Okay.
schedule some during the Wednesdays. People typically don't like it. They want to have it on the Saturday
Right.
and the Sunday.
Well,
How
you'll-
long do the games usually last? Like,
A football game is about 2.5, 3
so
hours.
that's probably part of it, because like a hockey game is an hour.
Right.
So if you're talking on a Wednesday night, 2.5 hours,
What
and
time
that's
are you getting
not
home?
Driving
Yeah.
to and driving home. and-
Right. What do you?
Don't forget hockey now at the midget and above. The games are an hour and a half at least.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
So as a parent, what do you do for dinner on a night like that?
Eat
It's
McDonald's.
eat early
I'm
or
joking,
eat
I'm
really
joking.
late.
Yeah.
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 We
Eat like-
cook really healthy meals at noon. We get them ready about 3 o'clock. So when
We
they
have
come
our
home from
tea.
school-
Like in Spain, we eat at lunchtime.
Right.
I think we, like every other parent, like you will someday, Kyle, you will someday. You struggling, two working parents. You're trying to do everything you can. You get home, it's always a little late. You got to stay a little late at work. Your son or daughter's calling you. Where are you? We got to get to the game. So you grab something. It's
Yeah.
tough. Everybody's got a tough go.
Subway.
Subway. Yeah.
It's fairly healthy.
Fairly healthy,
Yeah,
filling,
yeah, right.
cheap. Yeah.
That's right. Potential sponsor there, eh? Subway. Lots of franchises.
Yes.
So moving along, Kyle.
All right, so the next group is the Mosquito, and they are 10, 11, 12, I believe, for the age group.
Yes.
So 3 undefeated teams still there. We got the Vikings, the Wildcats, and the Wolverines. Vikings and Wildcats won big this week, but the Wolverines, they almost got upset by the Myers Riders. But the top 4 remain the same.
So that I think the shakeup there is the Bengals, the Orleans Bengals, and the Myers Riders. There's a lot of talk on the online about who should rank where. Is that
No, that's Pee Wee.
That's
coming
Pee Wee.
up.
My mistake.
Little preview for the next one.
Right. Okay.
But in this one, we also had the Giants move into the top 5 after beating the Raiders, and the Lions drop their second straight and fall down to 12th. Now, their schedule gets easier with the Warriors and the Raiders, who are ranked 13th and 8th, respectively, right now.
So they got to get wins there.
Now, do you think they can come back and salvage their season, being 1 and 2 this early?
Of course. Anything's possible, right? And a lot of times the first couple of weeks is just getting to know the kids. The coaches don't know who they're working with. They're shuffling people around. I tell you, at the JV division, which was 15, 16 this summer, 15, 16-year-olds, we really were shuffling people around from offense to defense right up until the championship game.
Oh, wow.
So I think the coaches are still figuring out who should be where, and things can change dramatically from 1 week to the next at that
There's
age.
Kyle on TV. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, hey, Kyle.
Sidelines roving reporter.
We got to get him back out there. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get another stream going soon.
So how about, let's talk about, you don't watch Monday Night Football, right? In the
No.
NFL? Okay.
I
So
do
there
not.
was an incident, Kyle.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
don't
field
either,
field
don't worry.
reporter that got a shot on
Yep.
Monday Night Football and totally
Oh.
tanked.
Yeah.
Boom
Yeah.
goes the Dutch.
Oh no.
Monday Night Football, second game of the doubleheader, millions of people watching, and this was his first appearance on a football broadcast. He was originally born in Mexico, so English not exactly his first language, and he just sort of froze.
Oh
and
no.
Yeah.
That
So-
would be me.
Really?
Sure.
Really?
100% that would be
You're
me.
doing pretty
Yeah.
good right now.
Well,
You know?
because I'm learning. That's why.
It's just because the HESN podcast is
Like
pretty
Jenny-
low pressure.
Jenny, he had to come out the next day on Twitter and explain himself and say, I'm
Oh.
so sorry that, I was nervous because people were thinking the worst of it.
Yeah.
I think
well,
that
at least
just-
he came back out the next day and talked about it.
Yeah.
because
yeah,
I
what
say-
else can you do, right?
Go right back in
Yeah,
there. you know?
Hey,
exactly.
Kyle
Yes.
came back.
I hope he gets another shot, whether it's on ESPN or Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Just get back
Well,
out
he has
there.
the exposure now.
Exactly.
That's right,
Keep
yeah.
working at
Yeah.
it, and it'll get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Kyle tweeted out right after, what a loser.
That's easy.
That's right.
All
I
right.
quit. I'm going to the NFL.
Yeah. If I,
One game in.
yeah. I can do that. All right. So now moving on to Pee Wee, and like you said, we had some controversy this week.
Right.
We had Patrick Cloutier. He said the Bengals should be first. Now, it's razor thin up there between first and second. Both Orleans and the Myers Riders are 3-0. They both scored 172 points. The only difference is the Riders' D's only allowed 7 points, and the Bengals have allowed 13. So that little point difference is what I'm using to keep the Riders on top.
And who knows? That touchdown that occurred, who knows? Maybe that was a fluke play. Maybe
Yep.
they had
Could have been
kids
garb-
playing out of position.
Yep.
Who knows?
Could have been garbage time touchdown,
Right.
but
I'm looking forward to the Pee Wee division, the championship. I love this division. That
Yep.
age group is when you start to see football and kids start getting their growth spurts
Yeah.
and it becomes real football
And
at
they
that
understand.
age. They
all
understand the
plays and
game a
rules
little bit
and
more.
everything.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yep. And just a heads up, Friday, September 22nd, the Bengals are playing the Riders, so that hopefully will be a matchup for first and second.
Beautiful.
In the power rankings.
Okay, that's one. Mark that down in your calendars, everybody.
Yep.
Go out and check that game out.
And we have one more question in that division. Scott McDonald asked, how can the Bel Air Lions go down when they won and remain undefeated? So the Bell Warriors took over third spot in my power rankings. The Bel Air Lions dropped down to fourth. And while Bel Air is 3-0, they've allowed 15 points per game, 45 points overall so far this season. You look at the Bell Warriors, they've only played 2 games, but they've won 49-0 and 42-0. 2 straight shutouts, it's hard to argue that. So
Hey.
even if your team is winning, they can still move down.
That's right. You heard it from the boss here, man.
Yep.
But you know what? You're entitled to your opinion, I guess. So thanks for writing in.
Yep. And those 2 teams, I believe, play this weekend, so I guarantee the winner will not move down after this one.
Right on.
Yep. So next on to the Bantam Power Rankings. We had there was a chink in the armor of the unstoppable Cumberland Panthers.
Yes, let's get it. Let's unpack this a little bit.
So Canada Knights, they scored early, they scored often. They were up 15-0 after the first quarter and held a lead into the third quarter. But
Now, was it the Eagles or the Knights?
sorry, it was the Knights.
It was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Knights scored early, they scored often, they held the lead into the second half, but ultimately they fell 41-23. Cumberland they showed their power and came back to win.
You know what though? But 23 points. You wonder a team. This team has been doing very well. Some very high-profile players on the team. It looks like they're going to coast right into the championship. However,
Kiss of death.
23,
Thanks, Jesse.
23 points put on them this weekend. I
Right.
mean, they're not invincible.
That was the first points put up against them all season.
So now, how much pressure is put on? What is it? The Lions that they're playing, or no? The Warriors are
The
coming
Bel
up.
Air Warriors are coming up soon.
So I think that's next Wednesday. The Warriors, who are undefeated as well, who have a very good defense, are playing this Cumberland team, and I think that's a Wednesday night game.
I believe so. I'd have to check the schedule. to
Yeah,
confirm
so
but-
that's another one to mark on the schedules. Maybe we'll have to get out and capture that one.
Yeah, and speaking of the Warriors, they took down the Red Blacks this week, 13-6. Trey O'Brien, 2 big touchdowns, and that game came down to the final play. I mean, Rito was down to the Bell 2-yard line, and they gave it off to the fullback, but the Warriors stuffed him.
Yeah. And that's I coach with Joe Papaleo, who runs the defense with Dan Crabtree at the Warriors Bantam team, and they do a phenomenal job. They figure out who's good at what, and they never come in and say, this is our system. They look at the players that they have, and then they design a defense around the guys and their skill sets. And I think that's clutch, because they're gonna have their work cut out for them with that Panthers team.
Yep. And there was one mistake I made in the Bantam Power Rankings this weekend. The West Carleton Wolverines, their Bantam team folded. They'll be adjusted for next week. Now, the reason the team folded was players, they went off to their high school team. And at NCAFA, we have a one-team rule where you can play NCAFA or you can play high school.
When it's not, just a no. You're right. It's not just a NCAFA rule. It's actually a Football Canada rule.
Right. Really?
And the idea is that they don't want kids playing too much heavy contact football sports.
Okay.
It's a
so
safety.
It's more for their safety.
It's a safety rule, right? And with
that
all the
sense.
talk about concussions and this and that. However, what it does is it kicks up quite a controversy, and we saw a lot of comments online about, can high school and club football survive in conflict with each other?
But other sports do the same thing. Hockey, baseball. All the sports have club and have high school. We talked about this endlessly about it's hard because the high school, and I hate to say as it is, but it's a melting pot of kids. They want to be with themselves.
Yes.
It's hard as club teams to draw those away and say, but it's better here. It's a better experience, more professional, more attentive. It's not work to rule teachers. Hey, I love teachers. I'm just saying.
Right.
It is done almost sometimes as you're doing the football this year.
Well, and I think this podcast is a perfect vehicle to actually talk about these issues, right? Because everyone has an opinion on what should be done, but we never really come together and solve any problems.
No.
So we saw some comments, we need to, as a league, NCAFA that is, needs to start working with high schools more.
Yeah.
We need to start saying, if
meeting.
you have a junior program or a senior program, well, why don't you do the recruiting efforts in the school to help us build our, let's say, Bantam team?
Right.
And then you don't have a junior team, and then we'll feed our kids to you at the senior level.
Right.
There's some validity there, I think. One of the other issues, if you can't really have two strong and healthy programs, you have to decide one or the other. So are we going to bolster high school at the senior level, or are we going to go exclusively with club? Now, my point on it is, do we really want to be having to work with the school board to accomplish things? There might be something there. The other thing is they're
I'm just calling it out.
Calling it out. You probably don't want to work with the bureaucracy of passing things and working with a school board.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe they would be very accommodating and you could accomplish a lot with them. Who knows?
Yeah. We're just saying that, you're not trying to teach them math and history in the cafe. And we're just saying that, for your sports agenda, you might be better served over here.
Yep. Potentially, the other very, very, I think, important thing to consider is that I would say most, probably all, of volunteer coaches at the high school levels are teachers in the school.
Yeah.
It's very convenient for coaches to have a football team when they're at their job and they can just stay an extra hour or two after. And
all the equipment's not in the back of their car. It's home base. I know as a coach that would go so far for me.
Oh, it'd be huge. Having the facilities, the change rooms, the showers, the equipment, storage facilities. But there are a lot of coaches in the community that coach football that have jobs that they have to work 9 to 5.
Right.
And if practice is at 3:30 or 4:30, we're basically cutting those great coaches out of football.
Yeah.
Well, and truthfully, I know that even for us, I think every family that has a kid, at some point you go, geez, maybe they're good at, who knows? I don't think there are a lot of scouts coming out to watch their high school games when they look at club teams and go, oh, typically that represents the upper crust of the skill level of the sport in the area. So that's where we're going to go take a look. There's a whole number of factors to look at. It's not just one or the other.
And I don't think this is something that maybe we come back to this when we have a few other guests that are very passionate about this topic. But definitely, if you read the comment that the league put out the statement that Football Canada has said, listen, just a reminder, you can only play one team at a time. And that is for
I never thought about.
That is a safety rule, and holy geez, you should see the comments on there.
So what if they want to play football and then they go play rugby and then they go play,
there's no control in place there.
Right. I appreciate the sentiment and what they're trying to get accomplished, but it's not a hard and fast.
It's not fixing it.
No,
you know,
and there's usually another reason in the background that maybe people aren't really all aware about.
True.
So.
I mean, for future.
Oh, whatever you mean.
Yeah, well,
As
we could go on for another 2 hours of that.
Of competitive sports. Jesse and I have talked about this a lot. I always say, how do other coaches feel about poaching those athletes? I come over to your football team and you got 50 guys out there, and I go to a couple of them. I think they could be incredible baseball players. May not be your starting. I come and go, hey, give them baseball a chance. Hockey. It's interesting because I have talked to other coaches about that cross poaching of other sports. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule there either. It's more of a what's tasteful, what's decorum. But are sports tasteful and full of decorum? Not really.
Yeah, you know, it's a good topic. I think at the end of the day, what's right for the athlete, the youth, right? You know,
that's the bottom line.
if
It's
they
not
get
about the parents or the teachers or
the
club or the whatever. It's all about getting the kids engaged and keeping them engaged.
Right.
So.
And if they enjoy playing soccer and they could play a lot more, then maybe that's the right decision.
Right.
Yep. But I know that clubs are always in battle for registration numbers and kids, so it is what it is.
There's a lot of politics in sports, that's for sure.
Right.
Where were we anyways? You were in power rankings.
Well,
so we just did the Bantam power rankings, and now, the last division is the midget power rankings, so the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, so the ones we were talking about with the high school programs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So this week, the Myers and the Bel Air Norsemen. Bel Air Norsemen, two-time defending champs, the Myers Riders, new to the division, and it was a great game. It was 7-5 for the Norsemen coming down within 2 minutes to play. The Riders were down to the Bel Air 5-yard line, I believe it was. Unfortunately, they fumbled the ball away, and Bel Air came back, scored a quick touchdown, and helped secure the 14-5 win.
You know, but that's a good game, and that's awesome. In the west end of the city, having two good teams duke it out at that age division.
Does that mean two good defenses or two inept offenses?
It was a bit of both. The offense was moving the ball pretty well, but the defenses were able to stop them at the key points of the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good matchup there. I think the Riders are able to surprise some people.
Yep. And after 2 weeks, the Canada Knights and the North Gloucester Giants, would the real teams please stand up? I mean, first week Canada posted the 37-0 shutout, and the Giants got smoked 25-0 by the Norsemen. This week they post impressive win, or Canada posted a bit of a loss to the Eagles. The Giants posted an impressive win.
Yeah.
Now,
what are the causes of Canada's? Like, we had high expectations for this team when we did our first HESN live broadcast.
Yeah, they came back. They beat the Bengals 37-0 in the first game.
Now, is that, the Bengals aren't that impressive at this point of the season.
Unfortunately, they still haven't even scored a point this season.
They haven't scored a point. So they're struggling in Orleans at that age division.
Yep.
But Canada, we saw that Jared Valentino might have been taken out of the game there.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Late in the game, Connor Ogilvie, a wide receiver that we saw in the first game, was playing quarterback for much of the second half, and I haven't heard an update on Jared Valentino yet, but hopefully we hear one soon.
Let's get an update there. If anyone knows what's happening at the Canada, is this gonna shake things up for this team that looks so promising in week one? Are they going to be able to battle? Who's going to be able to battle Bel Air? Is anyone going to give them a run for their money?
The Myers gave them a great shot, and hopefully we'll see the Eagles play them soon. Eagles looked impressive again this week.
Right.
And this Saturday we got the Giants and the Eagles. Who you got winning that one?
Giants, Eagles.
Both 1-1, coming off big wins.
I think I like what I see out of North Gloucester. The defense was, although they were playing Orleans, and Orleans doesn't look that strong, their defense was swarming the ball, flying around. They just look like a really aggressive group of kids there. And Jeff Woodhouse, the president over there, he called it, man. He was saying, you know what, after the week one loss, he said, I see a lot of potential in this team, and I think they're going to be in the championship. So I think the Giants are kind of starting to come together, and they're trending upwards.
Yep, exactly. So we look forward to seeing what happens this weekend.
Giants, our neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You guys have been involved over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
It's a good group.
Yeah, so looking forward to see what happens this weekend in the midget division and the rest of the divisions.
That's right.
Yep.
Now, what I wanted to talk a little bit to you, Jenny, about about some of the stuff that we're doing here at HESN as a group, and some of the things that you've done with Steve in the past. So we're very grateful to have you involved in HESN and being able to leverage some of your skills of being a youth coordinator and a crew coordinator.
Right.
Maybe explain a little bit about what you've done in that role previously.
So actually, I wanted to go back first to me not knowing anything about football.
Right.
Because I've already learned a lot just by sitting here. And one of the things that you said was getting the kids at midget level to stay interested. And then it got me thinking about, well, one of the ways to get them interested is you're going to play football, and when your team is not playing, come on out and help us with broadcasting. And that's kind of like 2 reasons instead of 1 for them to come out. And I think that's a really good tie. And so what I have been doing is basically going into the colleges and going into broadcasting and telling the students, come out to the music festivals. You're going to be on stage doing live shows.
With some huge names.
With Kiss, Pink.
Right. Top of the top.
The biggest names. And unfortunately, there's no pay, but the experience that you're going to get, that you're going to put on your resume is so valuable.
Right.
And without experience and your certificate and everything else, you wouldn't have those opportunities, because they're going to people that work for MTV or other big names. So once I sold the idea on the professor, Jeremy Atherton, who's awesome, he just pumps it up to these kids, because he said, you guys can't get the opportunity anywhere else to do that. And I mean, even my son, I bring him out, and he's 17, and he was on stage doing Little Yachty.
Nice.
And so for him, that opened his eyes to broadcasting as well, which he would never get that opportunity.
So does he have an interest in it now?
He has an interest as a hobby.
Okay.
He's a photographer, isn't he?
He loves photography. He loves architecture. He wants to be a builder.
Right.
But he has that experience now, and he loved it. And it's for youth to be able to be directed.
Right.
It's a huge responsibility.
Yep.
So if you're 17, 18, 16, 22, 25, and you're capable of taking direction from the director through the headset, that's incredible experience. Yeah. And not only as a personal level, but And
I find what I think is very powerful is sometimes kids just need to see something before they believe it's possible.
Exactly.
And if you talk about maybe disadvantaged youth, a lot of times you just need to expose them to something like that, and it gets their minds thinking in all sorts of directions.
For sure.
Whoa, I didn't know that I was this close to this. This is actually potentially a possibility for me. And if you can kind of bring that to them and find opportunities like the music festivals or like an amateur broadcast like HESN is focusing on, it kind of leads you down that path. And maybe that's an interest in going to Algonquin to take TV broadcasting. Maybe it's getting into university. But I think just sparking that interest is a great first step. And that's what we're trying to do at HESN. And to have you as a youth coordinator involved and trying to find opportunities for us to go and find youth that want to be interested. I just think it's amazing.
I think we know firsthand, having a 16-year-old son right now, he's still not sure what he wants to do, and a lot of his friends are the same way. And they see accountants and lawyers, and they go, that's cool, but it doesn't give me that spark. And we're just trying to give them another opportunity, another opportunity to experience something and say, what do you think? Quite often we say we can train almost anybody to hit buttons on a camera, change an iris, ND filters. But it's the compositional skills. People are very creative. Some people are very, very creative, and they don't know it until they pick up a camera. And some people are totally capable of many, many things, pick up a camera, and they don't know how to compose a shot. That's an innate skill sometimes. And like a sports skill, you don't know until you give someone the opportunity. And you
don't know it's there.
I'll call out X, our camera guy, for the first game. I've been doing production a long time, and the way that kid could follow a play blew me away. He's a pro. I just looked and went,
he's a rising star.
He knows what he's doing.
He's great, but his coverage, I'm sorry, X, I don't want to embarrass you out there. But a really great kid. Now he's going to Algonquin for a video next year or this year, right? He's there now.
Yeah, I coached X. It's funny. This kind of ties together with what we were talking about earlier too. X was on my team 2 years ago, 15, 16-year-old Warriors football team. And his dad would drive him to practice, and his dad looks like a guy that might have played football back in the day. He's a pretty husky man, and I kept going up to him and saying, you know, have you played football? And he's like, well, a little bit, this and that. I said, well, you're here every night. Why don't you want to help us coach? Right. Grab a bag, you know. And he said, well, maybe I'll help out with the receivers and the quarterbacks. I'm like, good, get in there. He's perfect. Like, boom, he's in, and he brought him closer to his son. Yep. Yeah. So, but X, you're right. Steve is a rising star. He volunteered pretty much all last year with the Rogers TV, and that brings me to another kind of point where the philosophy I always thought with HESN, that being an athlete my whole life and also an artist, a graphic artist and a filmmaker and a musician. I wanted to bring an element that I thought was missing when I watched Rogers TV broadcast, which is there's a lot of AV people out there that get involved in the past in Rogers TV and Cogeco volunteering. But I always thought that there's something that you gain as an athlete watching and playing your sport that can really be harnessed behind a camera.
Right. Like
the vision and the understanding of the game. So I always wanted to try to convert ex-athletes into media people.
Right.
And that's what we've kind of been trying to do. And X is an example of that, a kid that played football and is able to follow the play a little bit better because he has a better understanding of the game.
And that's
really
important for sure.
Yeah.
You need
it's
to have
the same.
that skill.
I know when Jenny and I have been doing these festivals for over 10 years now, one of the first things we'll ask our people,
are you a
musician? Do you play any instruments at all? Because I know when the directors are saying, show me the Hammond B3 organ, you can tell those people that are just moving the camera out. You tell me to stop when you see it. It's very nice when you can do that. Let me tell a quick little anecdote.
Yeah, please do.
We were doing a show at the River Stage at Blues Fest a few years back. This is Levon Helm, legendary drummer for the band.
Of course.
He was like 80 at the time or something, and he's up there playing, and I walk over to River to see how it's going, and the show's going swimmingly, and I walk in to see the director, and I say, hey, Levon Helm, rock royalty, how do you like this? He said, it's fantastic, people are enjoying it. I said, well, how about we show them on the screen? And he says, I'm showing them in the screen. And
it's like,
of course,
you're
you
not.
look at the screen, it's the guitar player. I said, no, it's the 80-year-old drummer, and all the cameras go over the drummer. But, they have to get the opportunity to learn things and to go in. So it's not always just technical stuff. It's so much else. And same thing with sports. The kids have been 16 years playing a sport. They know it. They know what's going on.
That's right. So anything else that we want to cover? Do we want to end it there?
Just a couple quick football shout-outs from Ottawa-born and raised players. Mike Arruda, 441 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an unfortunate loss to Laurier, 38-35. And in the same game, Curly Gittens Jr., 10 receptions, 130 yards. He's now sitting 5th in all of the CIS, or U Sports as it's called now. We got Thomas Carrier playing for the defensive backfield at Ottawa U. They're holding a 3-0 record and ranked number 8 right now, playing your McMaster Marauders, I think.
Yeah.
They play this weekend.
Good game.
Patrick Davis, freshman O-lineman, playing for the Syracuse Orange, made his debut September 1st. And Eli Anku, he made his debut in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars in a 29-7 win over Houston.
Unreal.
Nice.
Unreal, eh? So these are kids that have gone through the system, and now we're talking about them on the podcast being professional and NCAA and CIS players. So, that just goes back to the whole, if we can reward and appreciate and show youth that people in the community care about them and what they're doing with sports, or the media side of being involved in sports, then it leads to encouragement. They continue on playing and maybe are afforded some opportunities that lead to life-changing and certainly career-changing moments.
Gives them the confidence to do it.
And it's great to hear some of their local people doing so well. The other name I'll throw in there, I don't have any specific stats, but Carter Wilson at North Dakota State, I think North Dakota University, and playing defensive end there. He came through the Sooners junior program, and he also was a Meyer River Rider and a West Carleton Wolverine growing up. So lots of kids doing great things. Panda Bowl is coming up September 30th.
Okay, I think I know what that is.
Okay, go.
So Carleton and the GGs playing against each other.
She got it. She got it.
And I say go Carleton because that's where my daughters go.
Oh.
So yeah. Am I going to get in trouble?
I don't know. There's probably both.
I mean,
both
go
teams.
Ottawa U as well. Everybody
Have
wins.
an even game.
So
have
you been to a game? A Panda
No,
game?
like I literally have never been to a football game
What?
We're gonna get you
in
out.
my life.
Okay.
We got to get you
Yes,
out.
I support the sport and everything else, but I've just never been to a
You
game.
go to every event in town. How do you not go to a Red Blacks game?
I don't know.
Well, with the Grey
It's
Cup
going to
coming up this
happen.
year.
Well, actually, I am going to the Grey Cup.
Okay.
Yes.
So that should be your first football
That
game.
will
be
be
a pretty
my
good
first
first
football
Just
game.
hold out until that, so
Yes.
that you can say that your first football gave you.
Jesse,
I went
maybe
to
the Grey
I went
Cup.
to the Grey Cup. Is that good?
Yeah.
We should just live stream Jenny's whole evening.
GoPro.
No,
Red
we'd have to
Black
stop it at about 8 o'clock. Though.
Should be doing
8
halftime
o'clock. It's like
anything.
5:30 usually for me.
Okay, so jeez. I might not make it to the game then.
That's when we start Jesse's broadcast.
Yeah.
Not end it.
Well, thanks for joining us. As always, share the podcast, like it, comment, tell us what you didn't like, tell us what you want more of. We could do this live if people request it enough. And until next time, I'm your host, Jesse Card. I'm with my main man, Kyle Ball, and we want to thank Jenny Tierney for coming on the show
Thanks for
to
having
be
me.
our very special guest.
Very enlightening.
Jenny?